The holidays are over and inflation is back after months of mainstream victory laps, including Paul Krugman's famous quote, "Inflation is over, we won at very little cost." It turns out inflation is not dead after all, it is not even resting. As my colleague EJ and Tony put it, inflation ripped the steak out of its chest and loosened a blood-chilling scream. So first the numbers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, who lovingly handcrafts our alleged inflation numbers, put out fresh data for December, saying headline CPI went up at an annualized pace of 3.7%. That is a problem because it is almost 3 times higher than the previous month, the month that Paul Krugman was celebrating. Worse, the CPI is currently running almost double the pace of last December a year ago. So transitory is looking a lot longer than it used to. It's even worse on so-called core CPI, which strips out food and energy. That came in at an annualized 3.8%, about half a point higher than the previous month. And finally, so-called supercore inflation, which is not a joke. That is something the Fed pulled out of its hat to strip out housing costs. That one's doing even worse, hitting almost 5% annualized. I know that feeling when your fake statistics don't work out. The problem is none of this should be happening since we've just gone through the most savage, Fed-induced credit strangle since the 1970s. In fact, in terms of money supply, how much confetti is in existence, it has been the worst Fed-induced credit strangle since the 1930s. So we've got the creeping recession to show for it, as everybody, including the Fed, expected, and yet inflation isn't just undead. It's positively rocking the graveyard. So what happened? 2 things. First, the federal government never actually cut spending. Second, there was so much bank and hedge fund money parked at the Fed that as it drained out, especially the reverse repo, that meant there was plenty of money sloshing around Wall Street. It was only tight for the unwashed voters trying to, say, buy a house or pay down their credit card. The federal spending in particular has been eye-watering. In fact, just hours after the BLS inflation report, Janet Yellen rolled up with her bag of goodies, reporting the federal deficit for December soared to $130 billion in a single month. For perspective, the typical budget deficit during the Trump years on a December was roughly $20 billion. Under Biden, it was $80 billion last year. Now it's $130. And there's still another year to go, maybe more if the dead vote swings blue again. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Out of control federal spending is the root of our current economic crisis. It's driving inflation, it's driving the recessions the Fed makes to fight inflation. It's coming to tax the waitresses, and it is driving us to national insolvency. Of course, the Washington Uniparty is happy to watch it burn. We just got another installment of spinelessness from Speaker Johnson last week. So until we do get some testicular fortitude in Congress, we will keep replaying the 70s show. Inflation, recession, more joblessness. A new episode of the podcast just dropped. Give it a listen at peterstange.com. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.